Welcome to AlbionTV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world, keeping up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is Wednesday, the 28th of July, 2021. I am your host, the Shozen One, and joining me today, as always, you have the pleasure of speaking with Bogul.
Hello. Nice to speak to you, Shozen, but I didn't speak to today's interview guest directly.
No, you didn't. I guess that was a poor time to use that introduction, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What happened there? Who did we interview? And when was it recorded? And then maybe do one or two organizational things, such as raffles, before we start the interview.
The raffles are open. Everything is ready for those. I will be pulling a few of them during the interview. The interview is about to start. The interview is with Tamashiii. Tamashiii is a Shotcaller for Elevate. Elevate is a guild that is part of Steve. Steve is the newest iteration of the Alliance, formerly known as Monkey, formerly known as Six City, formerly known as having a place in the current war at 18 UTC.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of things can change in a week, Bogul. And as you can tell during this interview, things may have changed. I still think this is quite a good interview. It's very relevant. I think that it could prove in the future to be more accurate than it feels right now. But let's just say Tamashiii doesn't think he's losing this war.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
Well.
But if you watch at 18 UTC during the war report, it doesn't feel like they're winning this war. But I think he's probably much more capable of talking about it than I am. He's there on the front lines. He's been fighting on it for quite some time now, over a year. I guess he's been involved in these coalitions. This is the third iteration, I believe, of the coalition. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that we should just listen to the interview and pull some raffles, and we'll talk about it tomorrow during the community show. Welcome to the AlbionTV interview series. I am the Shozen One, and today I am joined by Tamashiii, a founding member and Shotcaller of Elevate, one of the most successful and dominant ZVZ guilds we've had in Albion for quite some time. Now, Tamashiii, I'd like you to kind of give a little bit of a history on who you are and let the audience know how you came to the point where you were founding this guild, Elevate.
When I first started the game, I joined a small guild, obviously, and I was invited to the game by a friend. I started playing in his guild for a while, and then, obviously things happened there, so we left, and I joined Take Care from there, and that's where I was kind of shown the spoils of ZVZ, how fun it is. And I had a blast ZVZing there. Take Care was super fun under the leadership of Ellipsis. From there, I also started Hellgating as well, which is how I kind of started GVGing. So primarily, I was a GVGer at first. I used to play a lot of crystals to level the Terries, and I also used to just farm it for money. And I used to Hellgate an unhealthy amount, but it was really fun, and we used to stream on Twitch. From there, the Crystal League was founded, and we started playing a lot in the Crystal League. Season 8, we were arguably the best team in the game. Me, World Rage, Thora, Zerfax, leader of the city team, and I-Team Bears.
Mm-hmm.
That team was a lot of fun to play on. Eventually, we disbanded because of some disagreements and World Rage quitting the game. Also, our Thora taking a break for a while. And, after trying so hard in GVGs and spending so much on time on Albion, kind of refining a craft, which was healing, I wanted to explore other outlets of skill expression. So from there, obviously, things happened to Take Care. A lot of us got kicked over disagreements with the GVG guild that Zerfax founded called Fishing. So we all just left Take Care. We went to Gone Fishing to launch all the cities, and Gone Fishing kind of evolved into Elevate, which is, where we are now. And Elevate's kind of where I've found that search for a way to express skill and more things to learn about the game. And shot calling, honestly, in this game is possibly one of the highest skill cap things I've done in any game that I've ever played. And this isn't even to say that like I've reached the epitome of where I want to be, or that anyone has really. Shot calling overall has an insane skill expression, and it's been super fun to learn and to be here and to play with these fantastic players.
Yeah, I have to agree 100% that shot calling is probably the highest skill level or highest skill ceiling event that you can do in Albion right now. When you lead groups of hundreds of players into battle, you're basically a general. And that does not have a limit, as far as we know, in how skillful you can be at that.
Yeah, shot calling is pretty insane. Like when it comes to shot calling, it's not just managing your own Zerg. When you're working with these other people, it's your people skills, your communication skills. How well you can coordinate when in this massive team structure, which is what ZVZ's kind of become now. It's this huge amalgamation of Zergs that are constantly working together and trying to create the best out of a situation, even when they're at a massive disadvantage. So it's been really interesting learning the ins and outs. And obviously I wouldn't be, anywhere close to where I'm at right now if it wasn't from, observing people like Ellipsis in the past, or playing with people like Momono, or, learning from Lost Legends, or even Thanatos, who got me into shot calling. People like Thanatos had a huge, mark on me when I first started calling. So it's been really fun. It's been really great leading my, 120 guys every day in this insane war.
So you said you went from 5v5 to the kind of creation of the guild that became Elevate. How did you guys get from there to here? I know there was a point where Elevate controlled all 6 cities and was doing quite well for themselves in the game, to the point where you couldn't really find a group that could challenge you. We've had groups that were difficult to fight in their specific area of expertise, whether it's the Cargera 5v5 team, which we saw lose the Crystal League Championship recently, or the BA team that was the best ZVZ force in the game, which eventually lost out, or maybe even to you guys. But we never saw anybody really beat you guys in 20v20s until you just stopped playing them during the Crystal League. Do you want to talk a little bit about that time that was, at least in the game's eyes, might have been the height of Elevate?
Oh, I know there's obviously memes about it, but Elevate in Season 9 was honestly fantastic. And the big thing that I felt like made us strong that season was because we had, something to fight for. And obviously we have something to fight for now, but before we, fought for survival. In Season 9, at the beginnings, POE was just out to get us. They were out to harass us out of the game. They didn't want us to play. They were squatting on us. Squad was doing the exact same. Squad was constantly, massively outnumbering us during NA, to the point where we just didn't bother massing in NA because they would just queue us all out of the map, even though we were by ourselves. In ZVZ, we fought for our survival, and it was the same thing with 20v20s. In 20v20, we needed the money to survive. It wasn't like we needed to have cities because we wanted personal income. It's not that we needed to have cities because we, wanted the guild to be super wealthy and we wanted a potato farm. We needed cities to be able to, fund our existence. And that's why we dedicated, dozens and dozens of hours every week, countless screen share sessions, countless up and downs, countless scrims, just trying to learn and trying to advance the meta and trying to become the best, which we were. We were the best. And we didn't win GVGs because of top screen or bottom screen. We didn't win GVGs because we had accrued a lot of money from owning the cities for a while. We held the cities because we were the best, and we cared to be the best, and no one wanted to put in as much effort as we did, which is the reason why we held all 6 cities for as long as we did.
I have to say, you guys did fantastic. And it's sad that people aren't putting that type of investment into the 20v20 gameplay that you guys did at the time. And do you remember what the most difficult defense that you guys had to do was? Because I do know you guys were attacked by multiple guilds at one time, and you had to do many defenses in one day. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I'm sure you remember it, but do you want to go into it a little bit?
I mean, literally everyone in the game was out to get us. We had random guilds launching on us like native at a point, everyone was out to get us. We were constantly being launched on by everyone, and people wanted to dethrone us. People wanted the satisfaction to say that we weren't the best. People wanted to prove us wrong. And obviously they didn't, When it came to our hardest fights always came after our breaks. So we'd own the cities for a while, and everybody would finally get the reality check that we were the best. And they would stop launching for a little bit. And then they would, start up again, and all these little micro alliances would form with people, even random guilds like Rage Control launched on our cities, from POE. it was ridiculous. It was just genuine desperation out of everyone to try and dethrone us. And the only, as I said, the only hard fights were the fights where we came off of a break, like the mini golf fight, but we also had fills. Like it just, none of the fights were exceptionally like hard per se. It was more of us just being, rusty and having to shake it off.
All right. You're saying something there that can lead us, I guess, into the next section here, because I think that's a good historical perspective of Elevate. But right now you guys are in the middle of, what is this, your second or third coalition war against POE?
It's the third, I guess. I guess it counts as the third.
I think it is your third. And what you just described and what you just said as Elevate in those city wars, I could imagine Syndic giving as a speech saying what it's like to defend against you guys in one of his and your epic wars for control of the Outlands there. And how do you feel about that? What are your feelings? I mean, we talked about it a little bit before the show here, before the interview, about this urge that you guys have, or this need that you guys have to defeat this empire. But why don't you tell the audience something about it? Tell them what you were telling me about how you feel about these guys.
So when I think about, I guess, Elevate in comparison to any other guild in the opposition, I think that these people fight to keep themselves in power, while I fight to give my guys content. Like, I fight to give my guys a good time. I fight to give my guys a place where they can feel like every single guy around them is equal to them in skill, and that, they're capable of completely trusting everyone, including myself, and that we're able to get, good fights, strong fights, and we're able to play well together and build this, good quality community, over time. But I don't think that the opposition is the same. I don't think that Syndic cares about his players as much, genuinely. I don't think that he cares about his players as much. And this is obviously easily provable by just the state of CIR currently. They mass about 40 guys. They're, super weak, and they rely on everybody else within their massive coalition. Or not, can't even call them a coalition, sorry, alliance, in order to deal with us, in order to deal with the threat, right? While Elevate has always relied on itself. Obviously, we have allies, we've had people that we've worked with, but in the genuine reality, like, our guild will always aim to be the best out of the guilds that we work with and out of the guilds that we're forced to play against. We will never rely on anybody else in order to, hold our land, or in order to win a ZVZ. We genuinely try and beat like the best. And that's the major difference between us and anybody on the opposition when it comes to how the Zergs are managed and treated and looked at. I don't see my guys' numbers.
Okay, I understand that. And I have to say, when you look at the different guilds that you have, or the different groups, you could say, you have Call, with Menace right now, who on their own is very capable. You have Homeless Crew, who may be the most capable solo guild that we've seen in quite some time. I mean, they have changed their perspective on that solo gameplay recently, but as a single entity right now, they are really powerful in ZVZs. You have yourselves in Elevate, you have Tidal and Surf, you have June. These are all individual groups that are known to be quite strong on their own, and they don't really need anybody else to keep them afloat. But together, you're working towards an incredibly difficult goal against incredible numbers, like huge numbers, and some quality numbers too. When you look at some of the opposition that you're facing with like Reject Sanity or Blue Army, some of these groups are really good on the ZVZ field.
So I have a war perspective on this, I feel. So when it comes to the state of the game, right? Let's look at last season, for example, right? There was a bunch of guilds that were semi-independent. Even Del Negro tried making Sun semi-independent from POE because he saw the spoils and the gratification you could have while being by yourself and with less numbers, and not taking ZVZs as this, cataclysmic win-loss scenario, and more as a, way to build up your players, and a way to, build up your guild, and a way to build up morale, and just that there's more to ZVZ than just power and control and money, and that there's genuine fun to be had. And Del Negro, I feel, saw that, which is what we see completely embodied in June now. And we see things like Homeless Crew, Africa now was with their side as well. And he's, seen the fruits of this play style, and he has, shined a different light and is completely turned around his, ideologies in order to play this amazing play style that Homeless Crew has, adopted from Elevate in the past, and has completely just blown out of the water now. And I think it really shows a lot that all of these guilds that have this condensed skill-based play style, that these guilds want to work together in order to dethrone these people that only care about numbers, and, as I said, power and money and control. And I I think it just speaks volumes that we're putting all of this aside to kind of become this coalition to push against this constant threat, I feel, that is PoE and that is squad.
Over the, I guess it is almost a month left of last season. Not quite. I think it was about 3 weeks. You guys started fighting against the Empire here. And up until very recently, you guys were having quite a bit of success taking down objectives. But in the last couple of days here on the War Report, and this interview isn't actually going to be aired for a few days yet, so it could be, by the time people listen to this, been quite a few days where you guys are going home early, is the nice way I could describe how the ZVZs at 18 UTC have been the last couple of days. You guys want to win this, right? You guys, this is the goal. What is the goal going forward in the near term to defeat these guys? What can the audience hear that would make them confident in rooting for you going forward?
I mean, personally, I would barely even consider these losses. I think that if these are labeled as losses, then I feel like they've already lost the war. I think that if they're labeling these as massive wins, then I think they've already lost the war. I think that if, their perspective is that we've tapped out and that this is over, I think they've already lost the war. I think that they're desperate, is what this is. They're desperate. They're trying to create morale for their members. They're trying to create this false reality, this false perspective in order to try and prove that we've given up when, as I said before, I play this game for enjoyment and entertainment, and my guys do the same. As, everyone knows, New World has come into beta, and my boys have been having a good time. We've been playing New World. We've been having fun. Our masters are lower. We've been utilizing secondary callers. But if, squad wants to label breaking a couple level 1 hideouts and taking a couple territories as massive victories, then, that already shows that they've lost. They've lost. I find it so laughable, honestly. I find it so laughable. At this point, we've definitely stepped off the gas a little bit. We're definitely recuperating. Some of our guilds have definitely been massing less. But, within the next few weeks, I would definitely watch out, honestly. I would definitely watch out, and I definitely look forward to, as DR, I guess, claimed it as the last war, the final war, because I don't intend on, laying off the gas until their alliance is pushed into rubble, destroyed, and then it's over. I see no reason to stop what we've started, and we started this a year ago, and I plan to finish it now.
What is finished here? What is stomping them into rubble? What does that entail? Is that completely eliminating their hideouts from the Outlands?
It is removing their power in the Outlands, because what happens is they utilize their power in order to force other people into their, little conglomerate, right? Their existence. So what happens is that guilds are incapable of existing without being a part of them. So it's either you're with them or you're with us. And they constantly talk about how the game is always red versus blue, but that's because they created the game. They played before I did. They created this meta of red versus blue, and the game doesn't have to be that way. And that's what we see. We see a game where it does not have to be that way. Elevate last season, we stepped off the gas politically, and we were just fighting. We were having good content. We were rebuilding the guild. And, you saw it on stream. I was fighting against, HC. I was fighting against Prelude Prelude, sorry. I forgot what the guild was called. They already disbanded. I forgot the name. They were part of Call. Polish guild.
Yeah. The guys who were Provokacje and those guys from beforehand, and then they created a new guild, and I can't remember who they are because they disappeared
I forgot the name. But we were fighting against them. We were fighting against June. We were fighting against even Sun 1v1s, right? Like when before that, when Delnegro was still in Sun, we were fighting against Sun. We were taking solo fights. We were having a couple friendly fights. Our clash with Homeless Crew and Grassland was probably one of the craziest fights to happen in such a long time. Like, that fight was just beyond insane, and everybody was there. It remembers that experience, and they remember the amount of fun that we had, or the 1v1v1s that we had with Homeless Crew, Fear, and Elevate in Battle Break Plane. Like, that content was great. It was fantastic. And who was it ruined by? You remember who was ruined by?
Was it POE?
It was ruined by POE. POE would show up every single day with multiple Zergs, and they would ruin the content in those areas. To the point where 18 UTC, everyone just stopped showing up because they ruined the fun. It was the 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks, where there was genuinely good content in this game, where everybody was having a good time. I would wipe to the Fear guys, and my guys would be typing GG in chat. The Fear guys would wipe to me, and I'd be getting PMs or ads and trash talk saying GG, good fight, like, thank you, and it was all love. It was all good content. It was all a good time, and everyone had a blast. And, I feel like the other side has never really gotten a taste of that. They've never gotten a taste of that reality, and they forgot what it looks like to have genuine fun in Albion. And that's just what we want to create. That's what the war is to create.
The game is better as a free-for-all than like a 1v1. It really is. When it's 1,200 people trying to get into one zone, it does not excel. when it's 1,200 people trying to get into 6 zones, it's amazing. It's a fantastic experience. And you see some of that right now in the faction warfare with these guys. They're not hand-holding, and they're getting into 3 and 4-way fights. I just talked to CKX and Jay the other day, and they talked about how great it is coming from the black zone, where it's always just a cluster queue manipulation fest, and this 5D chess you have to play in order to just get your guys in the zone, where in faction warfare it's just, where do I put my army on the field to defend against these 2 other armies? And that's so much more enjoyable. And if it wasn't 12 guilds on one side and 25 on the other, backed up by another 47, it might be a more enjoyable on the field of battle experience for everybody.
I mean, from SBI's perspective, I feel like they should really just look and take a look at the fact that Royals have a more healthy open world environment than the Blacks. I think that they really have to, take a look and really observe some of the things that are happening in the Black Zone and definitely make some changes accordingly.
Well, it is very hard to stop human nature with gameplay.
100%.
And it is a very difficult thing. And I think they are aware of the activities going on and how it impacts gameplay. And they're hoping that with some of the next update, we will see some changes. But the only ones who can guarantee changes are players like you, who see this and don't like it and want to fight against it. And, I jokingly used the Spartacus reference earlier today while I was saying, I'm going to have Tamashiii on, and we're going to talk about what it's like to, go against all these different guys. And it's very much just everybody raising their hand saying, I want to be the gladiator who takes down the empire. And I find it very interesting how well this has gone so far up until the last few days, which you've already addressed. This has been one of the most successful coalitions that we've seen since the days of the old continent.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about the war, I don't think about it just for myself, right? I don't think about the war just for myself. The war for me is just to create a path for guilds like me and H, Elevate and Homeless Crew, we want this playstyle that honestly in Albion feels like it's outlawed, it's illegal, it's against the rules. There's literally audio clips of Duratine saying to Homeless Crew that every single time he sees them that he's going to, squad on them when he sees them. There's a reason why that term is used, squad, right? There's a reason why that term has been coined in this game. They have a really ill habit of, utilizing overwhelming numbers in order to get a point across. And, to us, it's a video game, man. We're here to have fun. We're here to have a good time. And that's what this entire coalition embodies, man. A lot of these people that I play with every single day now, I would have never, ever imagined, being on my side. Del Negro, couldn't imagine it. He was with them and now he's with us. Africa, same thing, was with them, now he's with us. Henry, me and him had our own quarrels in the past, but, as men, we've put that aside. And Henry's, one of my favorite people to work with now. We have newer people like Raph, he's a great guy. There's so many people on our side. Or Dominic, he was with them, he's with us. There's so many people that I never ever thought I'd be working with that I'm working with now. And, we have so much fun in TS, we mess around, we have a good time. And it's kind of like building into a nice community with our coalition currently. And I don't know, it's been really nice. It's been really nice just having fun and having a good time with the guys that I work with.
Well, you say that, and it's great to hear that you're having such a buddy time. But as somebody who only wants to see these kinds of coalitions form for the purpose of taking down empires, I hear that and I go, what separates you from the current empire? What's stopping you from becoming the next one? I know you guys are already, and I don't want to single out you when I say you guys, but I mean members of the coalition are already renting out as well in order to fund this war. Are we really just replacing one empire with another if you guys push the current empire out, as it seems like you're already buddy with everybody, and the expressions that I heard early on are no longer being bandied about by groups like Homeless Crew, who say, that they could never work with Steve, or at the time I think they said they could never work with Monkey, and they were simply just going to work with them on objectives, but as soon as they saw them, that would be red is dead, time to slaughter these guys. It sounds a little buddy. And so I'm asking, are we just replacing one coalition for another?
So let's I guess handle one topic at a time, right? So you have renting. Renting itself isn't inherently bad, right? It's what is done with the renters, right? Like using these new players, these players that don't know any better, in order to accumulate a large amount of profit, for one, and two, to use them as literal artillery in something they know nothing about, right? So you have random people from guilds like I Do My, which can't even name the different types of plate boots in the game, right? They can't even name the different, plate boots that are in. These people are fighting in a war that they know nothing about, and they're forced to log in by their GM under this, I wouldn't say false pretense, but this idea that, they're going for crystal, and that, it's crazy, and that they want to be a crystal guild, and that it's so important, when in reality, they're just brand new players that have nothing to be doing in dealing with a war like this, right? With these like veteran players, and with these, with this large scale politics, and all these things. They're literally just being used as artillery. And I don't like that. I don't think that people should be utilizing, smaller groups and players that don't know any better in order to, take advantage of the game in the fashion that they're doing. Obviously, people have renters within our alliance, but as I said, like, renting isn't inherently bad. It's what you do with it, right? Elevate has never had a renter. We never will have renters. But obviously, the renters that we have now are literally just to fund the war. Not Elevate, but like June and Homeless Crew and whatnot. It's just to fund the war. At the end of the day, the game is a money game, and Syndic knows that. If we rely on things like mammoths, for example, like Elevate has, they'll do whatever they can to stop us from getting them. POE has been doing a lot to stop us from getting our mammoths, and obviously, it's kind of been futile because we have amazing scouts. We have players that are willing to log in any time of the day in order to deal with it and get the, to acquire money. But I guess the key point here is that renters they're not inherently bad. And that people aren't bad for using them. It's just what you do with them that we find problems with.
Okay, so you don't like seeing them just thrown into the meat grinder as fodder, but it's okay to give people a taste of Black Zone gathering, and you do more hope that it's a place to live and actually use, other than just a place to place a hideout and be told what to do with your own land.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying here? It's more like, it's okay if you want to let them live and be free, but if you're letting them live there, extorting them and telling them they can't do anything with their own stuff, it's another level that you don't approve of. So there's a line for you.
Yeah, 100% there's a line. I can't ever agree with utilizing, new players for your own personal gain. It's pointless.
Okay.
To me, at least.
All right. One of the things that you guys have been very vocal on, and this is more, I guess, like an Elevate thing, has been the idea of instanced versus uninstanced content. And you guys are kind of in favor of ideas like instanced ZVZ. And I know you've spoken on this before, and I thought I'd give you an opportunity to talk about it again while we still have a little bit of time left in our interview.
I guess instance PvP is kind of a solution to the problem, right? It's a solution, not necessarily the best solution, but it is one, right? It's a solution where you can have a form of content that only really benefits to skill expression, right? It only benefits to, people getting better. It only benefits if people, want to take the time to sit there and, draft of comps and come up with new strategies and, better their shot callers and improve their team synergy. And just like with 20v20s, right? Like, create this meta where you have to be good to exist, and that's what I feel like we just want in Albion, right? We want a place where the people who own things are the people who are able to protect them, the guilds that are strong enough, the guilds that have, put in the time, have accrued the members, have, shown the dedication. You have random guilds in the Black Zone that don't even mass anything. You just have like 4 guys outside the hideout every day with, level 3 hideouts and T8 maps because they're dishing out hundreds of millions of silver to this huge alliance that exists in the game. Like, they have to shell out large quantities of money in order to do this. But if it was instant CVZs, you could have a 300-man guild owning a T8 territory, and no one could take that territory from them. And yes, they might not be able to own 5, 6, 7, 8 terries, but they can still have their own place in the map in their own home and be able to defend it just because they are good enough and no one is able to oppose them. And I feel like that should be a playable playstyle within this game. You should be able to be small, condensed, and strong, and be able to find success.
So is that like an idea of, say, the current Crystal 20v20s for hideout control or something like that? Because I'm not exactly sure what you were suggesting.
I mean, when I'm thinking larger, right? So like, towards the center of the map, like 100v100, and then middle map like 50v50, and then, maybe the outskirts are like 35v35, or 20v20 or 30v30, just keep it smaller scale around there. So, newer, because that allows like newer guilds to function,
Mm-hmm.
But then, around the center, you would have, your larger guilds that mass more and pull more. And I think it would just become a healthier game overall. And obviously, this isn't the most refined idea. Obviously, there'd be negative implications or negative things that could happen. But it's just an idea, right? An idea to just create an environment that is more skill based and is numbers based. And we can both agree, like the game right now is numbers based. It's all the game is.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
In ZVZ with cluster queue, the wins and losses in a map are decided before the map is even queued, right? It's who can be there. It's who is queuing in. It's when you're queuing in. It's what you have versus what they have. You can calculate if a map is win or loss just solely based off of these things, you know? And I'm sick of playing chess and ZVZ, you know? Just want to have my Zerg in a map, and whatever my opposition is, I want to be able to run them over without, you know, seeing 80 glowing people behind me all disappearing.
Yeah, that does become a bit demoralizing. I think you did a good job of expressing that. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to? Anybody you'd like to call out as far as guilds who've been really supportive of your enterprise? Anybody you want to call out for doing anything that you think you should take them down for? This is your soapbox.
I mean, obviously the people that, you know, I care for know that I care for them, but you know, for me, the big thing is the officers and my fellow leadership, besides Dungeon Realms and Elevate, you know, shout out to all those guys. Without them, I'd be nothing. Without, you know, them, the guild would be nothing. And I feel like enough credit does not go to our officers when the guild is talked about publicly. Our officers are absolutely insane, and our officer corps is astounding. Another big shout out to my fellow warlords, Lost Legends and Thanatos. Without them, I'd be nothing in this game, realistically, at this point. When it comes to shot calling, they've taught me a lot. Definitely a big shout out to Lost. He's sat me countless hours in comms, just reviewing VODs, you know, helping me get better and giving me tips, you know, showing up to my ZVZs and just being a real good guy to me overall. And I mean, yeah, I guess that's it, you know. Shout out to all my boys that quit the game because the game's terrible right now.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tamashiii, for hanging out with me today and having a discussion. I think we went over a lot of stuff, and it was a good and pretty spicy interview. I think we got some emotion out of you there and got some of that animosity out that you have towards your opponents there over in POE and Squad. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I mean, as I've said before, the only thing that keeps me playing this game is the guys that fight with me, and the only thing that keeps me you know, showing up to ZVZs at least, the people that I fight against. So
excellent. All right. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Good one.